Imagine waking up one day to discover a terrifying truth. Your mind is no longer entirely your own. Imagine realizing that the deeply held beliefs you carry, the opinions you defend at dinner tables, the political stances you vote for, the values you think define your character, were not actually born from your own logic, research, or life experience. Instead, they were carefully curated, packaged, and fed to you by an invisible architecture designed to exploit your biology. Think about that. Truly think about it. What happens to a society when intelligence is no longer a shield against ignorance? We like to believe that education, high IQ, and analytical skill protect us from falling for nonsense. We look at the other side, whoever that side may be for you, and we assume they are simply uneducated, brainwashed, or malicious. But what if the truth is far more unsettling? What if the most dangerous illusions in the world today are being kept alive not by the uneducated, but by the highly intelligent? In this video, we are going to uncover the disturbing reality behind the echo chamber illusion. We will dissect how modern algorithmic segregation has turned our shared reality into fragments, and explore the psychological paradox of why smart people are often the most susceptible to believing incredibly stupid things. By the end of this journey, we will reveal a jarring, counterintuitive psychological law, one that explains why your intellect might actually be the very tool being used to deceive you. But before we venture into this psychological labyrinth, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share your thoughts in the comments. The content you are about to experience will challenge your perception of your own intellect. Share this with those who dare to step outside the comfort of the crowd, and who still value independent thought in an age of automated conformity. Let us begin our investigation with an uncomfortable truth that modern society tries desperately to hide. Your brain does not actually care about what is objectively true. It cares about what keeps you safe, accepted, and comfortable. For centuries, humanity operated under a comforting, noble assumption. If we just gave people more information, more education, and universal access to facts, ignorance would vanish from the earth. Yet here we are, we now live in the most information-dense, technologically advanced era in human history. But instead of entering a golden age of enlightenment, we have descended into a hyperpolarized dark age of division. Why? To understand this malfunction, we have to look at the groundbreaking work of contemporary psychologists, specifically Dan Kahan at Yale University. Kahan's research revealed something deeply shocking about human nature. He discovered that a person's mathematical ability and scientific literacy do not necessarily lead them to the objective truth. Instead, when faced with politically charged or culturally sensitive topics, people use their intelligence for a completely different purpose. Psychologists call this identity protective cognition. When a conclusion threatens our social standing, our group identity, or our deep sense of belonging, the human brain does not process it as an intellectual disagreement. It treats it as a physical threat. When you are highly intelligent, you possess an exceptional fluid ability to manipulate concepts, analyze data, and build incredibly complex arguments. But there is a catch to this mental power. If your brain has already subconsciously decided that a certain truth is socially dangerous to accept, it will weaponize your intelligence to reject it. Smart people don't always use their logic to find the truth. They use it to build more sophisticated justifications for what they want to believe. They are simply better than the average person at rationalizing their biases. This is why arguing with an intellectual who is trapped in an ideological echo chamber is completely useless. You are not arguing against their lack of facts or data. You are arguing against a highly sophisticated psychological defense mechanism. They aren't stupid. They are simply using their immense processing power to protect an illusion. The French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu once noted that intellectuals are uniquely vulnerable to specific forms of cultural conditioning because they are deeply invested in systems of prestige, credentials, and peer validation. In the modern world, that peer validation has been entirely automated. But how do these individual mental traps scale up into global movements? How do hundreds of thousands of otherwise rational, educated individuals collectively adopt bizarre, unyielding dogmas? The answer lies in the structural, hidden architecture of modern human communication: intellectual segregation. We used to live in physical communities where we were forced to interact with people who disagreed with us. The local baker, the neighbor across the street, the co-worker, they all had different lives, different backgrounds, and different views. This physical friction kept our minds anchored in reality. It forced us to realize daily that people with different opinions were still human, often rational, and frequently well-meaning. Social media systematically dismantled that friction. Every platform you open today operates on a single, ruthless financial metric: retention. To keep your eyes glued to the screen, the algorithm must show you content that triggers an immediate emotional response, usually affirmation or outrage. Over months and years, this creates an inescapable algorithmic feedback loop. The system subtly, quietly prunes away dissenting voices, nuance, and complexity from your feed. It builds a digital womb around you, populated exclusively by people who think exactly like you, talk like you, and hate the same things you hate. This is the birth of the echo chamber. But notice the brilliance of the illusion. Because the internet feels vast, you don't realize you are sitting in a cage. You look around your digital horizon and see millions of people agreeing with you. You see thousands of articles validating your worldview and hundreds of experts echoing your thoughts. You assume you have reached a purely rational consensus based on overwhelming objective evidence. But it isn't a consensus, it's an echo. The legendary philosopher and media theorist Marshall McLuhan warned us about this in the 1960s. He predicted that modern electronic media would inevitably tribalize society. He warned that as information began to move at the speed of light, humans would retreat into neo-tribal groups, fiercely craving collective identity over individual thought. In an echo chamber, information changes its nature. Information is no longer judged by its accuracy or logic. It is judged purely by its tribal utility. Does this piece of news make my tribe look good? Share it. Does it make the enemy tribe look bad? Believe it blindly. Does it challenge my tribe's core narrative? Ignore it, erase it, or instantly attack the character of whoever posted it. This is how intellectual segregation causes our collective reasoning to devolve. When consensus fully replaces truth, the smartest person in the room is no longer the one who asks the hardest questions. The smartest person becomes the one who can craft the most elegant weapon out of a lie to launch at the opposing camp. Let's go deeper into the hidden psychology of this trap. At the center of every echo chamber sits the ancient evolutionary mechanism of confirmation bias, paired with its even more malicious sibling, the backfire effect. When the average person encounters an echo chamber, they aren't just passively sitting there, they are actively, hungrily consuming information. Neuroscientists have shown that when we receive data that aligns with our current beliefs, the brain releases dopamine. Our brains are literally wired to reward us with pleasure for being right. Conversely, what happens when we are confronted with undeniable, rock-solid, contradictory evidence? In a completely rational world, we would change our minds. But that's not how the human animal operates. In political studies pioneered by researchers like Brendan Nyhan, scientists discovered something terrifying. When people were presented with hard corrective facts that went against their political or ideological identity, they didn't soften their views. Instead, their original, incorrect beliefs became even stronger. This is the backfire effect. The brain perceives the contradictory evidence as an existential attack on its identity, goes into immediate survival lockdown mode, and rapidly manufactures counter-arguments to protect itself. Now, apply this mechanism to a highly intelligent person. A smart person has a massive internal library of vocabulary, historical analogies, and rhetorical strategies at their disposal. When hit with a fact that contradicts their echo chamber, their brain doesn't just reject it. It constructs an entire intellectual fortress to debunk it. They will find the one minor flaw in the methodology of a study. They will point out the potential bias of the author. They will dredge up an obscure historical technicality to invalidate the entire point. Your intelligence does not prevent confirmation bias. It merely makes you vastly better at hiding your confirmation bias from yourself. Consider the warning of the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who observed that people often don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. In an echo chamber, protecting the illusion becomes a matter of social survival. If you dare to accept a truth that originates from outside the chamber, you risk the ultimate human punishment. Ostracization. You risk being cast out of the group that gives you meaning, status, and safety. And so the intellect surrenders to the crowd. What is the ultimate consequence of this psychological retreat? It is the total, catastrophic death of the dialectic, the ancient philosophical practice of seeking truth through structured, honest disagreement. For thousands of years, human progress relied entirely on the clashing of opposing ideas. Socrates, Plato, Hegel, they all understood that truth is not a static object you find sitting on a shelf. Truth is a fire sparked by the friction of two opposing forces rubbing against each other. But in a world of intellectual segregation, we have replaced the dialectic with the monologue. We no longer talk with people who disagree. We talk about them to an audience of people who already agree with us. We create caricatures of our opponents, reducing their complex arguments to absurd, easily defeatable strawmen. We watch videos of our favorite commentators destroying or debunking the other side, basking in the cheap, shallow satisfaction of a simulated victory. But while we are celebrating our intellectual superiority, our actual capacity for deep thought is decaying. When you only expose your mind to ideas that perfectly match your own, your cognitive muscles atrophy. You lose the ability to navigate ambiguity. You lose the capacity to sit with psychological discomfort. You become intellectually fragile, utterly unable to handle even the slightest deviation from your group's established orthodoxy. The economist Thomas Sowell summarized this beautifully when he wrote, "The problem isn't that people are ignorant. The problem is that people know so much that isn't so." In the echo chamber, you become an expert in things that are fundamentally untrue. You master the slogans, you internalize the narratives, and you carry yourself with the unshakable confidence of a scholar. But it is an empty expertise. It is a house of cards built on a foundation of curated validation. So how do we escape? How do we break the glass walls of the echo chambers we have spent years building around ourselves? The antidote to the echo chamber illusion is not to read more data, gather more facts, or get another advanced degree. The antidote is not intellectual, it is emotional and psychological. It begins with the radical practice of epistemic humility. You must develop the rare, uncomfortable courage to look into the mirror and ask yourself, what if I am the one who is wrong? To truly break free from collective stupidity, you must implement 3 habits into your life. First, seek out the best version of your opponent's argument. Stop consuming the worst, most ridiculous examples of the people you disagree with. Find their most articulate thinkers and reasonable voices. If you cannot accurately explain their viewpoint, you don't understand the issue. Second, audit your information diet. If your feeds offer nothing but validation, your mind is in danger. Intentionally inject friction. Follow people who challenge you. And third, separate your identity from your opinions. You are not your political views. Opinions are hypotheses meant to be tested, discarded, and updated when new evidence arises. The late philosopher Carl Sagan warned us that if we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. The bamboozle has captured us. Do not let yourself be captured. The greatest rebellion in a world of automated echo chambers is not to shout louder than the crowd. It is the quiet, disciplined act of stepping away from the noise, silencing the echoes, and choosing to look at reality with your own unfiltered eyes. Let the others take comfort in the warm, suffocating embrace of the collective illusion. Let them trade their intellectual independence for the cheap applause of the tribe. But not you. You are seeking something far more valuable, far more dangerous, and infinitely more liberating. The truth. If this message challenged your perspective or forced you to look closer at your own habits, share it with someone who values genuine inquiry over comforting illusions. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me, when was the last time you changed your mind about something truly important? What forced you to do it? Let us build a space not of echo chambers, but of true, rigorous dialogue. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay independent, and above all, keep thinking.